Hello everyone and welcome back to CodeViz channel. Here we teach you about web development tutorials and other tutorials as well. Now, in the last CSS tutorial that we were doing, we did introduction to CSS and I showed you guys some of the styling method in CSS, and today we're going to cover more topics which include CSS margin and starting with CSS margin and padding. But first, let us round up on the different CSS styling methods we have. In the last video, I showed you the inline and internal styling method. So now I'm going to show you the external styling method of applying CSS to our HTML. Also remember, please, as we carry on, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you can get updated whenever we post up a new video. Okay, so without further ado, let's carry on. Alright gang, now in the last class, like I said, we were doing the different styling method of CSS, and we did the inline styling method whereby you declare your CSS properties directly inside the HTML element using the style attribute like so, and the internal styling method where you declare your CSS properties inside the HTML document itself using the style tag like so. So now we're about to apply the external styling method of applying CSS. So let's do that right now. So to do this, the first thing we need to do is we need to create an external CSS file for our HTML file. That's the first thing you need to do. Now, I will show you how to do it here with VS Code. It's pretty easy, it's pretty simple. In the HTML tutorial video, I'm sure you guys were shown how to create new files and folders with VS Code. So it's the same process. All you have to do is come to your file explorer icon here in VS Code, then come down, then next to your folder name here, simply click on the folder icon that is here to create a new folder. I'm going to give the folder style sheet. Let me call it CSS, but I don't want to call it CSS, but let's just call it CSS for now. Okay, let's call it CSS2. Alright, now you can call the folder anything you want, but just call it CSS. The reason for that is because we're going to save a CSS file there. So with that, after you create a new folder, click on the new folder, create your new file icon, and then create a new file and call it style.css. Okay, that is all. When you create the file called style.css, simply press enter to save both the folder and the file, and then you have your file ready here. Now, just because you've created this file doesn't mean that your CSS will apply directly to your HTML. No, we still need to link this our style.css file to this our index.html file for the CSS to take effect. And to do that is pretty simple. Head straight up to your head tag here. You have to head straight up to the head tag right here. Now in this head tag, you have to create a new tag, and the tag is called the link tag. Now the work of this link tag is that it helps us link external files to our HTML documents. Now the external files can both be within our system or even online. It does not necessarily have to be on our system. So after we type in the link tag, then we put a href attribute equals to, then inside this href attribute we put the location of our CSS file. That's what we do here. We put the location of the CSS file. Now, since our CSS file is directly in our system in a folder called CSS, what I need to do is simple. I need to call out the name of the folder first before I type the name of the file. So I'll say css/style.css. Now take note of what I did here. The location of your file is very important. If you make a mistake with the location of your CSS file, your code won't work properly. That is, the CSS won't reflect on the HTML properly. So always take note of the location. Alright, now moving on. After you put the location of the CSS file, the next thing you need to put is the relationship between the CSS file and this HTML file. And to put the relationship, we make use of the rel attribute, and we say equals to style sheet. Now this thing here does not change. Whenever you are linking a CSS file to the HTML file, you must put rel equals to style sheet. Alright, this is a constant whenever you're linking your CSS to your HTML file. So after this rel equals to style sheet, you can include the third attribute to include there is type, which is equals to text/css. That is the final one to put there. Type text/css. So the href is used for the location of the CSS file. The rel is used to explain the relationship between the CSS file and the HTML file. And the type is used to explain the type of file we are attaching. We are attaching a text file that is what? CX, that is going to format our HTML in CSS format. So now that we've properly linked our HTML to our CSS, let's go and style it up. Let's go and style our CSS up in the external style sheet here. So to do that, I'm going to just include some brand new tags to our HTML. Alright, so I'm going to include the div tags. We'll say div.box. Now, the work of these div tags, as you already know from HTML, is to create sections within our document. Yes, the work of the div tag is to create sections. There are two other tags that does the exact same thing, namely the section tag and the span tag. Now, the div tag, section tag, and span tag, they all do the same thing. Their job is simply to create sections within the document. That is all. That is their jobs. Alright, but the most commonly used is div tag, and that's what we're going to be using today as well. So let's carry on with the class. Alright, so now that we have our div class of box, I'm going to come to our style.css here to edit it. And remember, whenever you're targeting an element that has a class attribute, you make use of what? Dots first, followed by the what? The value of the class, which is what? Box. Then we open our curly braces, and then we begin to style it up. So I'm going to come to this box here, and I'm going to type a simple text. I'm going to type "this is a text." Then in this box here, I'm going to come and edit it a bit. I'll say font family. To change the font style, I'll use my favorite font, Tahoma. Font size. To increase the size of the text, I'll say 62 pixels, and I'll say font weight. To make it bolder or less bold, I'll say 500 pixels. And if I come back to my HTML and I go live, let's open the live server. You can see that the div tag text is perfectly reflected here. Let's also change the color of the text. Let's change the color. Let's say the color should be hashtag 2C1107. It should be a dark brown color. Yeah, so let's try that out. Yep, and that is what we get here. So now that we know that our external CSS file is working, let's dive straight into another topic, and the topic we're diving into is CSS margins and paddings. Now, we talked about the CSS box model in the introduction to CSS, and I mentioned that the space in between the content of the box, that is the text inside the tags, and the edge of the box is referred to as the paddings. Then the space outside of the box is referred to as the margins. So we're going to touch that particular topic now. The reason for that is because it is very important to understand this topic, because you're going to manipulate it as you carry on into your CSS. There is no way you will insert an element in your HTML without manipulating the margin and padding of the element. As far as CSS is concerned, you need to do that. Okay, so to carry on with this, now you can either decide to create a brand new file here. At this point, you can decide to create a brand new file. If you want to do that, pause the video, go and create a brand new HTML and CSS file, link them up. But as for me, I'm going to clear up all this text that is here, so that we can start a fresh new work entirely. We're going to start a fresh new work whereby we're going to talk mainly about CSS margins and paddings. Alright, so let's do that quickly. Come here, clear you. So before I proceed, I need to explain to you guys something you need to know. There are certain rules you must follow whenever you are applying your CSS. Okay, not really, yeah, it's still a rule. There are certain rules you must follow because it is necessary. Okay, every HTML element you insert in your web page has a default CSS value that comes with it. Okay, every HTML element you insert in your web page has a default CSS value that comes with it. Now, this default CSS value also includes margin and in some case paddings. There's a reason why the H1 tag, when you insert it, this is a H1 text. If you check it in the browser, it has a separate spacing from P tag. This is a paragraph text. Then let me add a last tag. I'll add a B tag and say this is a bold text. If I should go live to the browser, if you notice in my browser here, this H1 tag has much more spacing than this paragraph text that is here, and there is a reason for that. The reason for that is because every HTML element has a default CSS settings as in declaration that comes with it. If you want to see this declaration, all you have to do is in your browser right here, if I click on the browser page, then go to inspect. Depending on your browser, this can show you either inspect or inspect elements. So I'm going to click on inspect. Then it's going to open a panel here in the right in my right side of my browser here. Then this shows me the element. This element shows me the entire HTML code of my website. Okay, and if I scroll down, you will see this styles that is here, this styles panel right here. Now in this styles panel right here, if you select any of the HTML element that is here, let me click on the H1 tag for example, you will see that there's a certain CSS declaration that already comes with it here. Can you see it? It has a display block, a font size, a margin settings, a margin block start and a margin block end. All these things are already there. I am not the one that included it. See what comes with the HTML, with the H1 tag that I inserted in my web page. This to show you that every element you insert in your web page has a default CSS declaration that comes with it. Whether it is the P tag, it has its own, or even the B tag, you can see it has its own here. So what we now need to do is that we need to manipulate these things that are here. Okay, now remember I talked about the CSS box model, and I will show you why I said that CSS sees all HTML elements like a box. And the reason for that is simple. If we click on this H1 tag that is here, you can see this little coloring it gives in the browser right here. Now the orange color is showing us the margins, that is the space outside the container. And if you scroll down to this style, if you come down to the styles that is here, let's scroll down a bit, you will see that it has a certain, you can see this little box that is here. This is how the CSS is seeing currently looking at the HTML elements, like this little box that is here. This one is the margin here, which represents the space outside of the box. That is the orange colored highlight you're seeing. Then we have the border. The border is non-existent. That's why you're seeing the comment dash that is here. The padding is also non-existent at the moment. Okay, then we have the actual content itself. So take note of these things, because I'm going to show you that, so because we are going to be manipulating it now. So diving right back into the code. What we now need to do is this. Since our HTML elements all have a default CSS declaration that comes with it, especially in the margin and padding, which can affect our work in the future, what we need to do is that we need to target all the HTML elements and cancel out the default margin and padding settings that are there. All right, now this is not hard at all. We don't need to start targeting each element one by one. In CSS, there's what we call the universal selector, which is the asterisk sign. And the work of this universal selector is to target all HTML elements regardless of their name or their function. It targets it and gives it a certain value. For example, if I come here and I say color of all my text should be red, then if I come back and remember, there's a H1 tag, a P tag, and a B tag. These three are all different tags that perform different functions. But if you come to the browser here, they will all be red regardless. Why? Because with my universal selector here, I said all the elements should be red, and therefore it became red. So that's the work of the universal selector here. It targets all HTML elements regardless of their tag name or function. So using this our universal selector, we're going to target all the HTML elements, then remove their respective margins and paddings from it, so that we can allocate our own space into it to make our work look properly organized. So with that, I'm just going to say margin 0, padding 0. And with this, I have cancelled out all excess spacings from all my HTML elements. If I go back to my browser and look at the text, you can see that they are all tightened up together now. Right? They are all tightened up together now. Okay? Now this is a good thing, because we're going to make use of it furthermore in the design. So now that I've showed you guys this part, let's talk more about margins and paddings, because that is the current topic we are in. So to do that, we are going to create a section using the div tag. So I'm going to come and say div.box again. I'm never going to bother putting any text in the box. I'm just going to show you the margin and padding. Okay, let's put a little text. This is a section. Alright. Now I will write .box. Now at this stage, like I said before, don't bother trying to remember the CSS properties, as I will still explain them later. What I want to do is to show you what the margin and padding does in this scenario. Alright. So with this, I'm going to give my box a width, meaning the width of the box. You all know what it means, how wide the box should be. I'm going to say 300 pixels, and a height. That is the height of the box, how tall the box should be, and the height is going to be, let's say, 150 pixels. That is half of the original one. Then I'm going to give it a background color, which will change the color of the box itself to orange, right? And the color of my text should be white. Let's go and check this out in the browser. Alright, so you can see my little section here with my little box, and you can see my little text that is here as well. Everything is ready for usage. Sorry, hold on. Let's change this white here to navy. No, sorry, not the white. The background color, let's change it from orange to navy. Sorry for that. That's unprofessional of me. Alright, good. Now we have this little box that is here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to manipulate your margins and paddings using this our little box here in the browser. Alright. Remember that margins has to do with the space outside of the box. So what is going to happen is that since my box is currently at the edge of this browser right here and very close to this space, if I want to move it about, I give it, if I want to manipulate the space around the box, I will affect the margins. Alright. So that means I will come here and give it margin. Now, when you use the short form of margin here, that means you're saying all round margin. That is both margin on the top, bottom, left, right, all at once. So if I simply say margin here and I say 50 pixels, that means I'm giving all round margin. That means I'm talking about the entire space around the box altogether. And I'm saying let the space around the entire box be 50 pixels. And if we come back to the browser, you can see that the box has spaced itself out away from this text that is here. Okay, you can see that clearly. Now we've not given this box padding here. There is no space inside the box yet. This is just the normal width and height we've given it. Alright. Now the same way we can target all sides of our box with margin with the simple margin statement here, we can also target the individual sides of the box using respectively. Respectively. Alright, to do that, all we have to do is say margin dash left. That means the margin on the left side of the box, 50 pixels. Then we can say margin dash top. That is the spacing. That is the space at the top side of the box should be 80 pixels. We can say margin dash right. The space on the right side of the box should be 100 pixels, and margin dash bottom. The space on the down part of the box should be 150 pixels. And if you come back to your browser, you see that the box has moved down more. If you should right click on this box and inspect the elements, if you come down to the styles that is here, you should see the space around the box clearly. The margin is 80 pixels at the top, 50 pixels at the right, at the left, 100 pixels at the right, and 150 pixels at the bottom, as clear as day. Alright, you can see here clearly the space around the box. That is the margin. I have not given any border or paddings yet. Now, even though this is all correct, targeting your work like this is long journey. It takes up more space in your lines of code. So there's a shorter way to type this. Alright, there's a much shorter way to type this. So let me comment this thing out here and comment it out here. Okay, so let's shorten this line of code to one line of code. And the short form is to make use of the margin, the original margin I made use of here to give the all-round measurement. However, if you want to target each side of the element and allocate its own space into it, what you need to do is you need to give it different figures. You won't just give it one figure. You have to give it 4 figures. Now, the 4 figures are applied clockwise, starting from the top. What does that mean? It means if I give it 4 figures, for example, let me give it margin 30 pixels. This first number will go to the top. That is to the top of the element. Then margin 40 pixels. Well, let's make it 50 pixels. This second number will go to the right side of the element. Then margin, adding 20 again, that is 70 pixels. This third number will go to the bottom of the element, and then 90 pixels. This fourth number will go to the left side of the element. Okay, the reason for this is simple. When you apply these 4 digits together in this shorthand margin, in this short margin form here, the spacing is allocated in a clockwise manner, starting from the top. So it goes top, right, bottom, left. So top, right, bottom, and left. And if you come back to your browser here, let's check it out. And what do you see? You can see clearly the margin here. The margin on top is 30 pixels, as you can see clearly from here, and you can see the spacing that is there. And the one on the right is what, 50 pixels. The one at the bottom is 70 pixels. The one at the left is what, 90 pixels, exactly as we did it in our code. So this is the short form of handling what, of allocating your margin spacing here. At the same time, you can also just use 2 numbers to do the whole thing as well. Alright, this one of 4 numbers here is to allocate on each side. At the same time, we can shorten it. We don't need to use 4 numbers. We can use 3 digits to allocate our margins. So I'm going to comment this one out again as well. And then I'm going to type another one. So I'm going to say margin. Then I'm going to simply say 30 pixels, 40 pixels, and then 60 pixels. Now with these 3 numbers, what is going to happen is pretty simple. Let's go to our browser so you can see it live. And what do you see here? When you use 3 figures, the first and third figure, that is the first and second figures, goes to margin top, margin bottom, margin top. The first and third figures go to margin top, margin bottom, and then the middle figure goes to the left and right sides of the element, as you can see here in your box model here in the browser. The top is 30 pixels, the bottom is 60 pixels, but the left and the right is 40 pixels. As clear as day, right? So with 3 figures, what happens? The number goes top, left, right, then bottom. That is what happens. So coming back here, we can also make use of what? 2 numbers to allocate our margin spacing. So let's use 2 numbers now. I'm going to say margin is equals to 20 pixels and 60 pixels. Now what's going to happen here is simple. The first number goes to the left and the right. The second number goes to the top and the bottom. It's as simple as that. So come and check it in your browser, and that's what you see here. The first number, 20 pixels, goes to the top and the bottom, that is here. The second number goes to the left and the right, that is here. So it's as simple as that. And like I said, when you make use of only 1 number, that is 1 figure, to allocate your margin 100 pixels, the number goes all round in the elements. That is all over the element. You want every side to be equal. You want every side to be what? 100 pixels. So I hope with this you guys understand margin clearly now. Remember, you can either allocate your margin, to different sides using this method here, or using this shorthand method. With the shorthand method, if you use 4 digits, it goes top, right, bottom, left. The reason for this is because the space, when you are allocating your space, it starts from the top and moves clockwise. So it goes top, right, bottom, left. If you use 3 numbers, it goes top, left and right, bottom. If you use 2 numbers, it goes top and bottom, left and right. If you use 1 number, it goes all round. And that is for margin. Now let's do padding. So before I do padding, I'm going to change the height of my box here from 150 pixels to auto, which means automatically assign the height of the box. It's as simple as that. Automatically assign the height of the box. Now this auto, what it's going to do is going to make my box responsive, in the sense that the box will automatically be changing its height according to the content inside of it. Okay, that's what it simply means. It means my box, this element that is here, will be adjusting its height according to the content inside of it. So I want to use this method to properly show you guys padding, so you understand it very well. Now with this we carry on. So now that we're done with margin, I'm going to leave this margin of 100 pixels that is here. Let's enter padding. So padding and margin works almost the same way. That is the way their code works is almost the same. The only difference is that margin is outside the element, while padding is inside the element. That is all. But they almost work the same way. You can simply start by doing padding left, 50 pixels, padding top, 80 pixels, padding right, 100 pixels, padding bottom, 130 pixels. And if I come back to my browser now, you will see that what my box has gotten bigger because of the padding, the space inside of it, and you can see it clearly right here. Okay, you can see these numbers are allocated: top 80, right 100, bottom this thing 130, and what left 50. So the padding is very clear to see now, and as you can see, the height of my box has automatically adjusted due to this padding. Okay, so the same way we type our paddings, you can allocate your padding spacings one by one like this. The same way you can also use the short form, and like I said, just like margin, padding works the same way. If you come and say padding and you give 4 digits, 20 pixels, 40 pixels, 60 pixels, 80 pixels, like so, these 20 pixels will be allocated to the we go to padding top and move in a clockwise manner. So this will be top, right, bottom, left. And if you come back to your browser, that is what you get: top padding 20 pixels, right padding 40 pixels, bottom padding 60 pixels, left padding 80 pixels. Exactly like I said, and you can see clearly that is here. As is here, sorry, I said that is here, don't mind me. Alright, commenting this one out. You can also say padding and give it 3 numbers as well: 20 pixels, 40 pixels, 60 pixels. And you already know what will happen: top, left, right, bottom. Come back to your browser and check out the padding, and that's what you have here as well: top 20 pixels, bottom 60 pixels, but the right and the left is what 40 pixels. If you use 2 numbers, it will do the same thing. Padding, and we'll see 20 pixels and 40 pixels. And all that will do is simply padding top 20, starting top and bottom 20 pixels, padding left and right 40 pixels. So you can see it works almost the same as what the margin. That is the fact of the matter that is there. It works almost the same as the margin. Alright, then you already know the last one. If you give it only 1 number, padding, that is 1 variant, we see 50 pixels. That is 50 pixels padding all round. And if you come back, you can see that the padding has 50 pixels padding all round. Okay, so with this, I am done explaining to you guys margin and padding. You can play around with it, create your own box, give it a different background color for my own. Remember, if you know the name of the color, just name it right here. Alright, you can name the color whatever you want. You can name it blue, red, indigo, purple, powder blue, or whatever color you have with you there. Then you can play around with the margins and paddings. Make sure you get the hang of it. Remember, throughout your designs, throughout your CSS designs, we're going to be manipulating these margin and paddings constantly. Alright, so we'll stop here for the day. Thank you very much, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, CodeVays channel. Alright, so that you get updated when we post a new video. Now, I know that this topic we touch is not much, but as you can see, I try to explain it fully so you can understand it very well, because that is what we hope to achieve with this our course that we're giving out. We want you guys to understand what you're being taught. So don't forget to practice what you're being taught, because if you don't practice, there's no way you will learn it. You will definitely forget. Okay, so with that, let's call it the day for today.